It me reporting whatever the fuck I want.
You don't owe me.
Whatever.
You should be scared.
It's tea time.
We hear all the time about corrupt police officers in the United States. And as an American, I have good experiences with the police and not so good experiences with the police. This is something I want to stress with my viewers who are not in the United States and don't really understand what the police are like in the United States of America. Because I know I have viewers outside of the United States, given that I have a few videos that have been banned in the US, not because I did anything wrong, but because of censorship issues and copyright issues or whatever. But they still get a lot of views. And it's obviously from people not from Canada or the United States.
I know you're out there.
I'm sure you've heard about the police force here, but it's important to kind of understand how it gets to the point that it gets. There are a lot of problems with the police force in the United States. Some people say that it is the police who didn't make the cut to get into the military, if that tells you anything about the police. It only takes 4 months of training to become a police officer in the United States of America. That's right. 4 months of training until the kid who got bullied in school and has never gone through therapy gets a gun handed to him by the state to use at his leisure. 4 months of training to be able to run over innocent people in the street and throw their bodies in unmarked graves behind a jail. I did a story on this as well on YouTube where the police in Jackson, Mississippi were caught doing this. And I was one of the first people to post about it on TikTok, and it got it into national news and people talking about it nationally again because they were talking about it about 4 months ago and nothing was really done. And it's finally getting coverage. That video that I made has over 1 million views at this point on TikTok. 4 months to be a police officer in the United States, as opposed to Sweden, where it is 2.5 years to become a police officer, plus 6 months of on-site training, which is like workplace training, 6 months of internship, basically, after their 2.5 years of cultivated officer training, before they're allowed to become a real full officer. Or in the UK, where it takes 2 to 3 years of training to become a police officer. Or Egypt, even, where you have to go to school for 4 years of like higher level education with some specialized classes in officer training and the law in order to become a police officer. A 4-year degree is required, even in Egypt, to be a police officer. But in the United States, you can get in right after high school and get 4 months of training. That's why you're hearing all the stories that you're hearing, guys. So in comparison, 4 months of training is irresponsible and extremely irrational. Now, we can talk about how corrupt the police force is for millions and millions of videos, basically. I mean, we've all heard the crazy stories. But I wanted to say a little story about what happened to me last week. The other day, I was stopped, but I was already parked. So I wasn't stopped by the police officer. I was already parked. So I don't know what to call it, but the police officer came upon me in my parked car. And again, this video is mostly for people outside of the United States who don't really understand how it is that things escalate so quickly in traffic stops and any sort of questioning. And my experience in this situation was extremely minimal and nothing escalated into anything crazy. But this is just to show you how it gets there. I really want to highlight the situation because I know a lot of other countries just don't understand how it gets to that point. So what had happened was, it was about 1 a.m. and I was driving one of my friends home from a comedy club. We're both comedians. So we were driving home from the comedy club. It was about 10 degrees outside, which that's 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it was negative if you're in Celsius. I wasn't going to make her wait for the bus. But as we're driving home, she tells me, oh, I forgot my card at the comedy club we were at. So I drove back. Mind you, it's 1 a.m. and it's 10 degrees outside. Negative if you're in Celsius. I think that's negative 12 or something in Celsius. I don't know. So I roll up right outside of the comedy club and I put my hazard lights on, which are the blinking lights in the back, right? That's what you do when you want people to go around you. And I parked my car. She got out just to grab her card. There was nobody else on the street at all. 1 a.m., right? Except for one car behind me. And I figured they would just go around me once they saw my hazards were on and there were 2 lanes they could go around me in. No. This big truck looking thing just parked super close to my bumper and put on its bright lights, like the bright floodlights. And I'm thinking, this is a Karen who just wants to make a problem on the road. So I ignored them. And I just stayed sitting there. My friend starts to come back out of the comedy club because this was only about a 60-second thing that was happening. And I hear, wow, 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 wow. I mean, it lasted maybe 2 seconds. Wow, 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 wow. And then that was done. It turned off. So then I realized, oh, this is a police officer. So I should probably move. I guess they're telling me to move. I rolled up to a space about like 10 yards away because that was the closest parking spot. At 1 a.m., with no one else really on the road, I wasn't going to go into a parking spot 10 yards away while my friend had to walk in that weather. It just didn't make sense. Yeah, you can get on here and be a Karen about it and be like, well, you shouldn't have been out late. You shouldn't have put your hazards on, but you're lame. Shut the fuck up. Okay, like literally die. I roll up into the parking space about 10 yards away, and as I start to back into the parking space to parallel park, this police officer cuts me off and prevents me from getting into the parking space. And I'm like, what is going on? So I roll down the window and I point like I'm trying to get into this space. And then the police officer gets out of their car and walks over to me like huffing and puffing, like they're ready for a fight. And I'm looking at them like, is this person okay? That's literally how I'm looking at them. And they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? I'm like, parking? And then he just starts raising his voice like, why are you in the middle of the street? Why are you? I say, sir, I put on my hazards. That means go around me. He goes, no, you can't park in the street. I'm like, sir, my friend was getting her credit card. Literally, she's standing right there. It's cold out. I put my hazards on. No one else is on the road. And he said, I'm on the road. Okay. So I just said, I'm trying to park in this parking spot and you're blocking it now. So we're both in the road. And then he said, I'm going to get you for fleeing a traffic stop. And I said, sir, I was already parked. And he said, well, I put my siren on and then you left. Now, guys, my car is automatic. So what I did when I left was I put my car in drive and I didn't even put my foot on the gas. I just let it coast 10 yards while this cop was rolling right behind me and tried to park in this parking space that they blocked me from parking in. So I said I didn't flee anything. I moved because you put on your siren and I thought that meant I'm a police officer. Move. And I'm this calm when I'm saying it to him. And he could not handle it. He was freaking out. He's like, I'm going to need your license and registration right now. I'm like, okay. Gave it to him. He left. I call my friend, tell her to get into the car because this is a waste of our time. Mind you, we sit there in the car for about 5 minutes. And both of us are now blocking the road. If he really wanted me out of the road, he would have let me park, right? Well, that's not what this was. He wanted to cause a problem. So now we're both in the road, blocking any traffic that's going to come by. For 5, 6, 7 minutes this thing took place, maybe 10. So now we're blocking the road for 7 to 10 minutes. Make it make sense. Then he comes back, gives me my license, and he's like, don't be in the road anymore like that. And when a police officer puts on their brights or their siren, you have to stay stopped. I'm like, okay. I ended up calling the police station because yes, I fucking did. And I asked who these people were. And the lady on the other end said that there was nobody like that on the team at that point. So she thinks that this was a police officer from another jurisdiction that was just joyriding and bored and didn't have anything to do that night, which I believe is true because it was pretty cold and there wasn't anybody out. And to be honest, that's what my friend thought was going on too anyway. But then this lady who's answering the police station phone says, I know officers can be jerks. What? This is the person answering the phone at the police station telling me that she knows officers can be jerks. And she said, yeah, when I get pulled over in other places, outside of my jurisdiction, they're mean to me too. Even when I tell them I work at the police station, they're still jerks. So you know that this is an ongoing systemic problem, and you just admitted that? Okay. But imagine that somebody else gets stopped and is not having it, doesn't like their attitude, says something snappy back. This can escalate into something super, super serious really fast. The police are supposed to protect and serve. They're paid by our tax dollars to protect and serve. They are doing a service to us as a community who are literally paying their paychecks to do a service to us and our community. We are in charge, not the other way around. We are their boss. We are the one paying their paycheck. But somehow it's turned into the Wild West where the law enforcers are the mafia and somehow we still pay them. It is crazy in the United States as far as the police force goes. And this is exactly how things escalate. And imagine if I had been anything other than a white girl. It may have been worse. Everybody says don't make it about race, but I mean, we just see it too much to ignore it. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.